If you took all of the things on your baby registry list and added them up, how much money would it amount to? Do you have a baby registry filled with items that people in your life have told you you need? Once all of this stuff comes into your house, is your house just going to be filled with baby items for a human being that really mostly just needs to be close to their parents, to feed, to have a safe place to sleep, and to have diapers changed regularly? So if you have been obsessing over your baby registry, getting everything ready for your sprinkle or your baby shower, or just for that time when your baby comes, I have a real treat. I've invited friend, colleague, former client, founder of Empowered Birth Coaching and Registry Rehab on for the next 12 days. Her name is Lisa. She's amazing. She has lots of evidence-based information, and we're going to put our two brains together for 12 days in a row from now until December 24th to give you amazing information about how to best prepare for your baby and the items that you are combing through for that baby registry. And we hope to help you to recognize that what you need on your baby registry is support. What you need is to set yourself up to reach out to the people who are going to be most helpful to you once you have that baby in your arms. So welcome to the Milk Making Minutes 12 Days of Postpartum Christmas. I'm your host, Lo Nigrosh, IBCLC and Childbirth Educator, on a mission to uncover the barriers that make breastfeeding so difficult. Hey, Lisa.
Hi.
I'm so excited you're here.
Yeah. To be back.
I know. So you were already on the podcast one time to share your incredibly difficult baby feeding story.
Yes.
So I will link that in the show notes. But I'm having you back as a professional because you are deeply in the weeds of both birth coaching and helping people to figure out what should go on the registry and what should not go in the registry.
Yes, I am.
Yeah. So I have been wanting to do a 12 days of Christmas breastfeeding edition for the podcast. Not just breastfeeding and postpartum, really. And I thought, who better to bring on and help me kind of discuss things that are necessary in the postpartum period and things that we can just like not even worry about, or if they're necessary, what is the best way to go about getting them than you. So I'm so happy that you're here.
Thank you. That's so kind. I'm excited. This is important stuff to talk about.
Yeah. So if anyone is listening and wants help navigating birth choices, or you do registry consultations, don't you? Well, you will go through and kind of help people decide what is truly necessary based on what their needs are.
Yeah, I like to customize everything so we can do a build from, scratch, or I'm happy to audit somebody's registry too if they're looking for a new set of eyes.
Awesome. Great. Okay. So with that, we are now at day one at the 12 days of milk making Christmas.
Love it.
And yeah, so we thought we would start with breast pumps because so many people order breast pumps during pregnancy or right when they get to the hospital, because you either order it in advance through a DME provider, durable medical equipment provider, or when you get to the hospital, they give you the choices that are there. So I thought we would talk about that.
Yes.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit your experience with breast pumps.
Yeah, so a little bit blindsided with breast pumps, I would say, because getting my breast pump was very easy and smooth. So I'm fortunate that I had insurance that covered my pump. I went on one of those websites, included all my info, and it was pretty straightforward. Here's what's covered. I selected one. It showed up at my door within a couple of weeks. And I thought, I'm going to try to get familiar with this, pulled it out of the box. And I thought that was all I needed to do.
Mhm.
So I think that there's a lot to talk about with what do you even need to make sure you have ahead of time.
Mhm.
Flange size.
Mhm.
I didn't
Yeah.
know that. Why would the pump come with flange sizes that don't work for most?
Right. I know. Yeah, yeah, and I have an episode about that, so I'll link it. Um, yeah, so phalange sizes, also which pump you are going to get. So often people say, "My insur" I see this on Facebook groups all the time. They'll say, "My insurance company allows me to get X, Y, or Z breast pump," and they think those are their only options. And for a few insurance companies, that is true. But for most, you actually have all the options that whatever DME provider has available is offering to you. And so you can shop around for DME providers, for breast pump suppliers in the same way that you shop around for anything else and still get many breast pumps covered by insurance. And I think a lot of people don't understand that it's not the actual insurance company supplying the breast pump, but it is a breast pump supplier that provides it and bills your insurance company. And so there are a few insurance companies that'll say you can only get the Amita Maya or the Medela pump and style, but the vast majority, you actually have many, many options, which for some people can be intimidating. So, if you just want to choose from the 2, that's your option, but also, um, you do have more options than that typically.
When we're looking for a baby stroller, it's easy to access the resources and know what questions to ask to narrow things down. But with the breast pump, nobody had asked me, and I didn't know which questions to ask myself to help me narrow things down.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. And the best way to do that is to talk with an IBCLC prenatally.
100%.
Um, yeah, because there are breast pumps that are, like, more widely preferred. However, when I am doing a consultation with somebody about which breast pump that they should get, I'm taking into consideration what kind of job do you have? Does your job follow state or federal mandates for pumping breaks? Do they provide a room with an outlet? So these are all things that are going to play into which pump you select, because for the vast majority of people, I am going to suggest that they use a plug-in wall pump. But if you are a service industry worker, or you work for your own hair salon, or you work for somebody else's hair salon and you have less than X number of employees, you might not get those designated pumping breaks. And so getting a wearable pump, for instance, is going to be better in your situation because some pumping is better than no pumping. But if you're in an office where you do have a space you can plug in and you are able to take frequent pumping breaks, then you'll want to use your insurance benefit on a plug in pump, most likely.
Yeah, and I didn't even know that. And I think
Yeah.
that, meeting with an IBCLC prenatally is so critical because I wish that I had gone into the postpartum period knowing the basics of when and how to use a pump.
Hmm.
I didn't even know, like, what the best times to pump were. I didn't have a plan for how many bottles in a day and how that would really help inform the decision on when and how to pump and how often. So,
Right.
I
Yeah.
I think that it's twofold. Which pump do we need, and how do we select that based on the information? And then how do we use it comfortably, confidently?
Hmm. Right, exactly. And you mentioned phalange sizing. I think it's a hot topic right now. I think a lot of people know they need proper phalange sizing, but phalange sizing is often done incorrectly. And so
Mm.
then people still experience pain or they experience reduced milk supply over time. And really getting properly sized by somebody who has a full kit, or who does it virtually and has you order the supplies they need and then is able to walk you through it, um, is going to be critical to maintaining your supply. And for some people who come out of the workforce just during their leave and then go back in, their supply will be fine when they're with their baby. And then they go to work and all of a sudden they're stressing about supply because they don't have proper sizing or are not using their pump settings properly. So having that consultation with somebody to know what you're going to need and then checking in along the way as you're pumping because your flange sizes might change or you might need to use your settings differently. And this is just not a case to go onto Facebook and ask all the moms and only do that. It's a good starting place to see what are other people's experiences, but it's not going to help you know in your exact situation what is going to be best for you.
Yeah, and I will say that I did not understand the difference between a plug-in pump and a wearable pump, and I thought that my wearable pump would make a great primary pump, and
Mm.
because of that, and because of the lack of education and understanding, I really struggled, and it wasn't a great journey pumping.
Mhm.
I ended up not really pumping much. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, that's so true. Yeah, and if you, are planning on exclusively pumping, that is a whole nother ball game. It's totally, doable. Lots of people do it with success, but you really have to make sure you have the right tools and the right schedule and the right settings, and so that's where that consult will come in handy. And I know when I do consults with people, um, I also recommend all these exclusive pumpers on Instagram who give really great evidence-based, non-judgmental, solid advice about what they do. And so you get that extra kind of guidance. You know which social media to follow and which not to follow in order to really set yourself up for success.
I love it. I have a lot of clients that say things to me like, "I would like to breastfeed, but I know it's really hard, so I'd also like a backup plan." And I think
Mhm.
that connecting clients prenatally with an IBCLC ahead of time so they can build rapport, get their questions answered, and go into the 4th trimester with a whole set of basics, you're just setting yourself up for a successful journey.
Yes, absolutely. So tell me some of the supplies, pumping supplies that you see people put on registries before we wrap up pumping that, you might have mixed feelings about or that you feel like aren't as necessary.
Sure. I think the Haka is a really popular item. And I think that the Haka needs to have services and support attached to it
Hmm.
because there are quite a few caveats to using a Haka and the relationship with supply. And I'll let you talk about that for a moment, but it's a great inexpensive tool and I see them on almost every registry, but I would like to make sure there's education that comes with it.
Yes. Do you have any experience with milk catchers like the Haka?
I have lots of milk catchers,
Mm-hmm.
many of which I feel like were a little bit overkill. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and I use the Haka a lot, and I sometimes wonder if that was why I had almost an oversupply.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. It can definitely lead to oversupply. And I see people in the early postpartum period trying to use them right away because they're so worried about milk supply. And then they're struggling to latch their baby and they have this milk catcher on and it keeps falling off and they
Mm,
can't position baby well because they're worried about knocking the Haka off. And so when I'm counseling people about Haka, the use of the Haka, I think it's a great tool. I used it with my second.
yeah.
Um, uh but when I'm counseling people, I want them to feel really confident about breastfeeding first and feel like they can feed the baby anytime, anywhere before they're adding in the Haka, or just using it once or twice a day, and not overusing it. Yeah, so
Right.
getting that counseling to go with the Haka is really important. What about things like creams, extra pumping supplies? What do you see with that?
Yeah, I see a lot of creams on registries, and my thought on that is you don't really know which one you want and love until you're using it. And when you register for something like creams, it's like registering for baby hats. You end up with like 45 of them. And the truth is, I say that's something where you can create a breastfeeding fund. And I often will recommend that people utilize a service like Be Her Village and create a breastfeeding fund and get specific in the details. I'm going to use this money to buy breastfeeding creams and reusable nursing pads or whatever it is. And your friends and family can give you the funds so that you can go and get the ones that work for you.
Yeah, exactly. You don't know which ones are going to work. And the jury, as far as looking at the evidence, the jury is really out about breastfeeding creams. If you are using it because you are in pain, either from pumping or breastfeeding, just know it is like, putting a Band-Aid on something that needs stitches. It is not going to help you.
Right.
If you are experiencing a lot of pain with pumping, you either need a settings adjustment or different size phalanges. And if you're experiencing a lot of pain with breastfeeding, then you need positional changes, or there is something going on orally with your baby that needs a full oral assessment. So creams are not going to help painful nipples. Now, the one time where I do always suggest creams or a lubricant with pumps is putting lubricant on your nipples while you're pumping. And having properly fitting phalanges really makes a difference. But I usually just recommend using olive oil.
Right.
You don't need anything. You don't need a special cream for that.
Yeah, I think they're one of those things you can get rid of and save a little money and prevent getting 30 of the same thing. And like to your point, let's get to the root cause first.
Exactly. Awesome. Well, thanks so much for talking about pumping. Okay, so that's the end of day 1 of the Milk Making Minutes Postpartum Christmas. Make sure you tune in tomorrow for day 2. And if you are pregnant and preparing to give birth in 2024, go to my website, www.quavinbirthservices.com. Sign up for my childbirth education for a great postpartum course. This will be a live course taught virtually with access to a community and to the videos. You'll be able to see the videos after the fact if you're not able to make the live course. Right now, for a limited time, the course is on sale for 50% off. So go sign up for that course and you'll get way more information about preparing right now during pregnancy and childbirth to have a postpartum period where you feel sure that you are making each right decision as it comes. See you there.